Hi everybody, Heather from Center for Teaching and Learning, and I'm just popping in because I want to look at how to start tagging the learning outcomes we've added to a course to some of our assessments. Now that can be assessment activities or it can be rubrics. We're going to start actually with the rubrics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my assessments tab. That's where I can access easily rubrics. You can also get there from course admin. And you can tag learning outcomes to rubrics that you already have created. I have a rubric in here already, or you can add rubrics specifically for the purpose of tagging your learning outcome too. I know that I've talked about this before, but one of the amazing things about utilizing rubrics for CLO or GLO or PLO, whatever type of learning outcome we have, using rubrics is awesome because you can have a rubric criteria row that's specifically measuring that rubric and have other criteria rows for other objectives you have for that lesson. So I'm going to go ahead. I have this GLO rubric for the Gen Ed right here already started. I'm going to go to Edit. Now, one important thing to remember is that you can tag the learning outcomes. Here's the little blue button here that allows me to attach learning outcomes to this rubric only if it's set to analytic. So if you have a holistic rubric, let's just take a look at that really quickly. See, it doesn't have that blue button to tag the outcome to. So even if you have a holistic style rubric where it's more listed, you can still have one criterion row and have it be a holistic style, and then you still have access, or you'll have access to align those outcomes. So when I'm ready to, and you can see this is actually for GLO 4A, so my levels are just those Gen Ed for GLO 4 performance levels, and I'm going to go ahead and click Outcomes. And here you can see that it allows me to tag any of my outcomes that I have available in the course. You can also see, we talked about this a little bit in the last video, I have here that PLO with the child learning outcome. So you can see that I can't tag that top level. I can only tag the lower level outcomes. But I'm going to go for my GLO. Now you can actually tag more than one outcome, but I usually find it easier and more accurate to create a different criteria row for each learning outcome that I'm going to measure, because a student might really knock one outcome out of the ballpark and completely, miss it on another learning outcome, even within the same lesson. And I can also add additional criteria rows for the assignment, specifically if I'm looking for things like APA formatting or other criteria that I just want to make sure completeness for the assignment. So that's basically how you tag the learning outcome to a rubric. When you grade on this rubric, whatever level you click for that, that's what will record for you and the students to review as far as their progress on their learning outcomes. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And now I want to look at a couple different places that I can actually tag those learning outcomes as well. So I'm going to go back to the assessments button, and I'm going to start with the quizzes. So we can see that I have a sample quiz right here. And if I go into edit the quiz, I want to edit the quiz questions that I have. So I can see here that I only have one question in this quiz. Whether I have one question or 25 questions or more, I can just simply click as many as I want to attach to a learning outcome. And when I click that question box, you can see that I now have this button called More Actions in the top right. And I can align to learning outcomes straight from here. If you have an entire quiz that's aligned to a specific learning outcome, you can simply select all and have them all checked and attach them all to that one outcome altogether. Make sure that you save and close whenever you attach learning outcomes. Now we're going to move into discussions. And I have a discussion here that's all ready. If I want to attach a learning outcome, I can do it in one of two ways. So the first way can be if I go to the assessment button, sorry about that. And you can see here that I can add a rubric. Oh, I didn't publish that last rubric. So I have this discussion. So I have this discussion topic here that's all ready, and I'm going to go ahead and click to edit that topic. And I have a couple different ways that I can tag learning outcomes. So the first way that I can tag my learning outcome is if I go to the assessment button. I can choose to, if I've already created my rubric that has the outcome tagged to that criteria row, I can go ahead and click add a rubric there just to add my rubric that I've already created. Or if I'm not using a rubric, I can simply click over to the right on the learning outcomes button. And that will allow me to add outcomes. You can see this one actually already is aligning to CLO1. I can potentially take that out and add whatever outcome I want to that's being measured in this discussion. And now I can see that's tagged again. And lastly, we can go to the assignments. So I have a couple of assignments here. I'm going to go ahead and edit the assignment that I want to measure the learning outcome with. And there are also a couple of ways that I can tag the learning outcome to the assignment. So the first way is just like with discussions. I can go down and I can add a rubric, the rubric that I've already created and add the learning outcome for. Or I can click the learning outcomes button to the right. And just like with discussions, I can add one or more learning outcome directly to that assignment. And again, you'd want to follow this pathway if you're not using a rubric or you already have rubrics that are aligned or measuring other things that you didn't want to necessarily add, an additional criteria row on. If you have any questions, go ahead and give me a holler. Otherwise, in the next video, we're going to be looking at where you can assess learning outcomes and where you can look to see student progress and where students can see their progress on those learning outcomes. If you have any questions, go ahead and give me a call. I'll talk to you soon.